They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
It's awful, generic. Never mind that the lyrics make no sense at all. All you have to do to make your dream come true is let it echo. Is it like on a metaphor?
A tempest of discourse erupted. The instant murmurs began circulating about a clandestine scandal involving Rachel Zegler and the disastrous implosion of Snow White at the box office, a collapse of such magnitude that it blindsided even the most skeptical observers. What was anticipated to be a magical return of Disney's iconic princess, gracing theaters with enchanting nostalgia, instead unraveled into an entirely different spectacle, one said to have unfolded far from the public eye. According to the whispers echoing through industry circles, this alleged behind-the-scenes debacle cast a glaring spotlight of blame squarely on Zegler herself.
She came out and she said, I apologize. Like, I went too far. But it wasn't.
For remaking the movie, they just got rid of the dwarfs. But they have one token dwarf amongst these magical creatures. You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it. The disability, like we're a disability group, you just erase that whole.
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime. And let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
Both fans and industry insiders alleged that Zegler sowed discord on set, demanding last-minute script overhauls, disrupting the creative flow, and ultimately shaking the production to its core. She arrived on set burdened with sky-high expectations, her name attached to the promise of a bold reimagining. But as the film spiraled into critical and commercial failure, those expectations rapidly disintegrated. Whispers soon grew louder, suggesting the project was fated to collapse from the outset, due, in no small part, to Zegler's purported conduct behind the scenes. And for anyone assuming this was merely a minor hiccup, think again.
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
So apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White, women can't even want to be in love anymore.
What began as mere whispers has now swelled into a full-blown media storm, with fans and insiders alike asking the same bewildered question: how did Snow White spiral into such catastrophic disarray? From the very first day Rachel Zegler stepped onto the set, those present claimed an eerie tension lingered in the air, one that only intensified as production progressed. Insiders alleged that Zegler was visibly dissatisfied with certain elements of her role. But this wasn't about a costume issue or a disagreement over musical numbers. No, her dissatisfaction ran deeper, much deeper. During promotional interviews, Zegler's own words raised eyebrows, mocking the film's romantic themes and questioning why modern audiences should care about a princess seeking true love. "Who wants a movie about true love?" she said, laughing. "What kind of woman do we want out there seeking that?" Those comments ignited a firestorm online, and behind the scenes, the situation was reportedly even more volatile. Zegler, it's claimed, didn't merely offer creative suggestions, she demanded extensive rewrites, insisted on reshaping major story arcs, and clashed with anyone unwilling to bend to her vision. According to some on the crew, her ironclad determination to modernize Snow White created a rift on set that never truly healed. While creative disagreements are nothing new in Hollywood, the scale and frequency of these alleged clashes were far from routine. Rumors swirled that Zegler overstepped boundaries, challenging directors, disregarding producers, and even butting heads with her co-stars. What began as excitement to reimagine a classic soon devolved into unease, and then indifference, and the troubles didn't end there. Word began to circulate that Zegler viewed the original Snow White story as outdated, desperately in need of transformation. To Disney loyalists, this was an unforgivable stance. The timeless charm of the original was, in their eyes, something to be honored, not bulldozed. But Zegler, many claimed, wasn't interested in homage. She was there to bring her truth to the character, no matter how much tradition had to be sacrificed along the way. Controversy flared once again when news broke that Disney had removed the iconic Seven Dwarfs, replacing them with a vague collection of magical beings. Fans were stunned. To many, it felt like yet another attempt to erase beloved elements in favor of a forced modernization. Critics began labeling Zegler as excessively woke, but not in an inspiring or empowering way. Rather, in a way that felt out of touch and performative. And then came the numbers. Disney poured an estimated $300 million into this live-action gamble. But when Snow White finally premiered, it wasn't just a soft landing, it was an outright crash. Earning under $50 million on opening, it became the lowest debut of any Disney live-action remake to date. Critics tore into it. Fans revolted. The film's IMDb score plummeted to an abysmal 2.2 out of 10. And at the center of the wreckage stood Rachel Zegler. Her on-screen portrayal was slammed for lacking the warmth, innocence, and magic that defined the original Snow White. Instead, audiences described her performance as snarky, disconnected, almost satirical in its coldness. What was once hyped as a bold reinvention now felt like a misguided parody. The fallout was swift. Viewers who were once curious lost interest entirely. Social media exploded with biting commentary. Zegler's earlier comments were dug up, dissected, and condemned. Many believed she never truly wanted to honor the legacy of Snow White, only to replace it with a reflection of herself. But what truly shocked people were the bombshell revelations that followed. Multiple insiders alleged that tensions on set had boiled over into open conflict. Shouting matches, walk-offs, even security intervention. At one point, it's said that producers had to physically separate parties to restore order. Zegler reportedly scolded team members for not aligning with her creative outlook, while certain co-stars, initially supportive, grew exhausted trying to mediate constant friction. And perhaps most damaging of all, reports surfaced that by the time filming wrapped, the entire crew was so overwhelmed by script changes, clashing egos, and spiraling costs that morale was at an all-time low. What began as a fairy tale comeback for a classic story ended as one of Disney's most humiliating misfires in recent history. Now, as the financial losses continue to mount, Rachel Zegler remains firmly in the crosshairs. Was she the bold visionary the film needed, or the disruptive force that brought a beloved legend crashing down? Only time will tell. But if one thing is certain, it's this. Snow White was supposed to be magic, and instead, it became a cautionary tale. They set out to honor a beloved classic with a modern twist, but what unfolded felt more like a demolition job than a respectful update. Insiders say Rachel Zegler wasn't just interested in freshening Snow White for new audiences, she was determined to bulldoze tradition, showing little regard for the timeless magic that made the original endure. Word of these fiery on-set clashes didn't stay hidden for long. They spread like wildfire across social media. Fans began piecing together cryptic tweets, subtle interview clips, and blurry behind-the-scenes photos, each one fueling speculation. The narrative took on a life of its own. With every new tidbit, the image of a chaotic, unstable production solidified. A meltdown seemed inevitable. And no matter how many tried to mediate or restore order, sources claimed Zegler dug in her heels. There was no room for compromise. But the tension on set was only the beginning. What happened off-screen soon threatened to eclipse the film itself. Zegler's public persona exploded into the spotlight when she fired back at critics online. Instead of letting the negativity slide or clarifying her views with grace, she allegedly doubled down, posting snide replies and reinforcing her controversial stance on Snow White. To fans who adored the original fairy tale, this felt like a slap in the face. The backlash intensified. Her every tweet added fuel to an already raging fire. Some industry watchers claimed her online behavior amounted to self-sabotage. She wasn't engaging in thoughtful dialogue. She was pouring gasoline on a cultural bonfire. The press pounced. Headlines lit up with stories of her combative tone and tone-deaf remarks. Then came the boycott calls. People rallied others to skip the movie entirely, claiming they couldn't support an actress who seemed to treat the character, and the fanbase, with outright disdain. Online forums exploded with criticism. Zegler wasn't just seen as the face of the new Snow White. She became the villain in its unfolding drama. In an era where a single viral post can uplift or destroy a career, every word she typed only made things worse. And it showed at the box office. Already teetering from bad buzz, Snow White's numbers cratered. Analysts believe the online backlash may have been the final blow. Disney fans, fiercely protective of the brand's legacy, felt betrayed. Many didn't just dislike the film, they felt actively insulted by Zegler's alleged attitude toward the source material. They flooded YouTube, TikTok, and fan blogs with scathing commentary. Side-by-side video breakdowns compared the original Snow White to the new version, pointing out every deviation, every modern change they viewed as a desecration. Her interviews were dissected line by line, flagged as arrogant, dismissive, even mocking. One offhand comment about classic princess tropes turned into a rallying cry for outraged fans who felt their childhoods were being rewritten, and not for the better. And as the avalanche of negativity gained momentum, Disney found itself helpless to stop it. Internal sources claim the studio was stunned by the sheer scale of the blowback. They expected controversy, but nothing like this. Audiences once eager to see a bold new take now mocked the film as a soulless parody. Memes and mockery flooded timelines, and all fingers pointed to Zegler. They blamed her for turning a fairy tale into what they saw as a modern mess. Hollywood insiders began to take notice. The town's infamous rumor mill roared to life. Behind closed doors, executives were said to be rattled. Whispers suggested some began questioning Zegler's future viability. Would working with her bring the same drama? Would her presence spark new controversies? No official word was given, but casting directors reportedly grew hesitant. Why take a gamble that might cost millions and ignite another PR disaster? Even fellow actors allegedly began to distance themselves, careful not to get swept up in the storm. For Disney, the financial toll was staggering. Internal sources claim top executives felt blindsided. Zegler had once been touted as a rising star, a new generation icon. But now, her name was tied to one of the most expensive failures in studio history. The situation became a staple conversation in Hollywood circles. Some shrugged it off as a temporary storm. Others warned the damage might be permanent. But either way, all eyes turned to Zegler's next move. Would she attempt to redeem her image? Or would she double down and cast her critics as villains unwilling to accept change? New projects have been rumored, but whispers say producers are wary. No one wants to pour money into a film that might collapse under the weight of controversy. And that's the real danger. Not just the fallout from Snow White, but the lingering ghost of it, haunting every project with her name attached. What began as a creative reimagining has evolved into a cautionary tale. A behind-the-scenes implosion. A catastrophic box office showing. A fan base in revolt. And at the center of it all, a star whose alleged uncompromising vision, divisive persona, and tone-deaf public engagement may have dragged down the entire ship. Now, the question lingers in the air. Can Rachel Zegler recover? Will Hollywood give her another shot? Or has this fairy tale crash left a scar too deep to heal? Because one thing is undeniable, the fallout from Snow White didn't just stain a single movie. It redefined what's at stake when tradition meets modern reinvention without balance. Zegler's name is now etched into Disney history, but not as a heroine. As a symbol of what happens when bold vision and legacy storytelling collide with no middle ground. The story may be over on screen, but in real life, it's only just begun.